Hi, I'm Kirby Allison. Today, very excited to be here in Mexico City with someone that Cigar Aficionado has described as the cigar king of Mexico, also someone that I would describe as my personal cigar hero. I'm here with the legendary Max Gutmann. Max, thank you so much for welcoming me into your beautiful apartment here in Polanco, and for the opportunity to sit down and enjoy a cigar together.
Thank you, Kirby. It's a pleasure that you're in Mexico City and that we can have a good cigar and then probably a very good lunch and enjoy ourselves.
And I have to just, start with saying that this is really a kind of a moment of arrival for me. I call you my cigar hero because back in 2012, I was here in Mexico City over New Year's with my wife, who grew up in Mexico City. And it was at that moment I stumbled upon, in your La Casa del Habano in Polanco, the Edmundo Dante 54, which is one of the most legendary, widely celebrated releases, that and the 109. And smoking that cigar over New Year's changed everything. And then I remember going on to the internet afterwards and Googling about the cigar, and that's whenever I first learned about you. And then I've had the opportunity to get to know you a little bit better over the years through the festivals. And so to be here, smoking the presence of your incredible company is a real privilege, so thank you.
No, thank you very much for having me here.
One of the things that I find, particularly just impressive is that, you have had a very distinguished career, not just as a collector, but also being in the business of Cuban cigars, now almost for 40 years. And one of the things that, has always struck me about you is that, you were first a cigar smoker that ultimately found his way into the business versus someone that was in the business and maybe fell in love with cigars. And so you have this passion for collecting and for the cigar lifestyle. And you've been at some of the most important moments in the modern history of Cuban cigars, beginning all the way in the 1990s.
Yes, well, it was in 1990 when we opened the first Casa del Habano in the world. We opened it in Cancun. But to be able to get there, it took my partner Rodolfo Velasco and me like 3 years to be able to convince the Cuban authorities of opening a Casa del Habano.
Really?
Only Cuban products. We will not sell anything but Cuban cigars. This was after the problem they had with Davidoff.
Okay.
That they were working with Davidoff for many years. And then all of a sudden, there was a misunderstanding between both of them. Davidoff said that the quality of cigars are not so good. Cuba said that they are as good as ever. They also asked him if they want to make a television program with experts smoking the cigars and let them decide if they are still good or they're not good or what was the thing. Anyway, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So they did break the contract. And since then, Cuba was very, they didn't want to do any other business directly with somebody because they had at the end a bad experience with Davidoff. So we tried to convince them that we will only sell Cuban cigars. It's going to be like a little temple for cigars. So we had made a mock of the place. We took it to Cuba. They saw the whole, it's small houses. We only made 40 meters. Well, that was the size of the store I wanted to have. Only Cuban cigars. We started doing some DuPont lighters, but that's about it, nothing else. And until they accepted to make a trial, and they wanted it to do in Cancun.
Okay.
Because Cancun is very close to the island. So from there, it was very easy for them to check the store to see how it worked. So the 1st of December of 1990, we opened the first Casa del Habano in the world.
Okay.
And Mr. Francisco Padron, who was the president of, it was Cuba Tobacco at the time, and some other people from Cuba came to the opening. And it was a success. I mean, people were very excited about it because it was the first in the world. And besides, in Mexico, you could not buy Cuban cigars. It was very ransomly that you could buy maybe at the airport and the duty-free. And they only had Montecristo #1 specials and #2 specials.
Really?
But I wanted to have the whole variety of tobacco. So we opened the store, and it was very good. A lot of people from the States that come to Cancun, they were going really crazy because
Absolutely.
over there you cannot buy the cigars. In Mexico, we had every kind of cigar. Among others, we had a lot of Davidoffs, still from the ones made in Cuba. Dom Perignon, Montorrochil, Chateau Margaux, Latour, the Aniversario, everything we had. So we started working, and it worked very well. And then I heard, like 2 years later, that they were opening a Casa del Habano in Paris. And
you heard this through the grapevine, not from...
No, I heard it, that they were opening in Saint-Germain-des-Prés. There was a little place where they're going to open. I said, okay. And all of a sudden, one day, I get a call from Mr. Padron, president of Cuba Tobacco, and he says, Max, I want you to go tomorrow to the lawyer and endorse the name Casa del Habano, that's yours, to Cuba Tobacco. So what I did, I hung the phone because I never thought that he was going to tell me something like that. Because I had to think what to answer. So then I hang, and I go with my wife. I said, look, Padron called us. He wants me to give the name that I owned. What do we do? I have a passion for cigars. I really love cigars. That's what I did the whole thing because I really enjoy them. So if I tell them that how much they're going to pay me for the franchise, he's going to tell me, look, Cuba is in bad shape. Not only that, we, the distributors, were putting money to Cuba, lending the money for the crop because Cuba did not have the money. So if I ask them for money, says, you're crazy. So if I tell them no, he's going to say, no, okay, I will sell you more cigars. Easy. So I wanted to do
then you have
it,
a Casa del Cubano, but
to stay in the business. So I called him back, and I said, Padron, the connections are very bad. They're still bad today, but imagine 30 years ago. It was really bad, the connections.
I can't imagine.
So I said, listen, yes, I thought about it, and I will go and I will endorse to Cuba Tobacco the name Casa del Habano. But I would like, in the other hand, for you at least to respect me like being the first Casa del Habano in the world. So that is, when there are new products, I am like the number one customer you have. Obviously, I'm not, but to treat me like the best customer. When there should be scarcity of cigars, you would always give me priority to get the cigars. And like that we go, because I know that you don't have any money to pay me to give me something, but as a nice gesture, I would give it to you, and you just give me the benefit of where I will always get the cigars.
Yeah.
Says, deal. So I did go, and I endorsed the name. Today, as we're speaking, there's more than 150 Casas del Habano in the world.
It's amazing.
And it's been a very good success.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and for people that are so passionate about Cuban cigars, I mean, ultimately, I feel like what, is at the root of our love is a passion for the Cuban people. And the La Casa del Habano, has been a concept that has really helped spread Cuban cigars around the world. And, the sale of those cigars ultimately is support for the Cuban people. So it's an incredible, legacy of yours to having had created that concept, but then shared it with Cuba so that they could then spread it around the world.
Yeah, and they were very happy, and so we were happy. So as long as Padron was the president of Cuba Tobacco, I mean, everything worked very well. Then after he left, came Mr. Francisco Linares, who was a great person. He used to be the Minister of Labor in Cuba, and a very well knowledgeable about agriculture and tobacco. And he basically didn't travel much because he was in Cuba working with the labor business. But he came to Mexico, to Cancun. The first trip he ever made was there. And like it was, I'm not prepared to give big speeches on that because, I have said, don't worry. We'll try to not to give speeches on, but we'll come to our house in Cancun. We make some dinners for you. So you meet the market, how is it in Cancun. And he saw that there were a lot of people. And funny enough, everybody was asking him, listen, Mr. Linares, we all know about the Trinidad fundadores that they had in the dinner in Paris.
Which you were at.
Which I, by the way, I was in that. I was one of the lucky people, of the 200 lucky people to be in that dinner.
If I could go back in time.
Yeah, it was really spectacular because going back to the dinner, the dinner was basically organized by Marvin. It was the dinner of the century in the restaurant Laurent in Paris. And the cigars to be given at the dinner was the Trinidad Fundador, that was only for gifts of the Comandante to princes, kings, the presidents, prime ministers, whatever, personal gifts of the government. And they had, for the first time, and they have not done, Cohiba Pirámide, and they had the Cohiba Gran Formato. Those were the cigars we smoked. And after that, they had the first actual auction that was held outside of Paris, outside of Cuba, for first time ever. And Padron was there for the dinner. So, and it was a spectacular dinner. The cigars were magnificent. They had 3 chefs preparing the dinner, incredible wines, because Marvin Shanken, he loves wines. He's been in the wine business for many years, so he gave the very best you can have. And at the end, they had the auction. But funny enough, that afternoon, before the dinner, Padron had called me to go see him at Coprova, which was the offices of Cuba Tobacco there.
Okay.
And I went to see him, and then he says, I'm nervous because I have never been in an auction. I just know one thing. I have to get a lot of money in the auction because, it's all for charity.
Yeah.
Everything goes for public health. So let's see how it works. I said, look, Padron, I'm sure you're going to do very good because the cigar that they're going to give, especially the Trinidad, everybody is like going crazy for it because it's like the forbidden fruit.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted it and nobody could get it.
I mean, at this point, this was literally the first time that the Trinidad had ever been available outside of diplomatic channels where it was given as gifts.
Yeah.
And I guess, this is 1994. It was 2 years prior that Marvin, in the first issue, or the inaugural issue of Cigar Aficionado, even spoke of the Trinidad. And so for 2 years, people had known about the Trinidad, but no one had smoked it.
Yeah, nobody has smoked. You could have seen a picture in a magazine, but nobody had tried it. When the rumor starts going out, the Trinidad, in this world of smokers, it goes like very, very fast. And everybody wanted, especially because you could not get it.
Yeah. Do you think Trinidad at that dinner was an even larger draw than Cohiba?
I think it was more important at the moment.
Yeah.
Because Cohiba was already out. Not these 2 formats, not the Pyramide and the A size, but the Trinidad was what everybody was expecting.
It's incredible to think by that moment, Cohiba had been in the market for 12 years. Mm-hmm. And here, this brand that was born, for all intents and purposes, alongside Cohiba at El Higuito, was being seen for the first time.
Yeah. And especially such a thin cigar.
Yeah.
Because it was a 38 ring. And 38 ring is, first of all, it's a very difficult cigar to make. And then it's like, it's difficult to see if it has to draw well. And people were more accustomed to thicker cigars at the time.
Okay.
But when they gave us at the entrance, they gave us a Trinidad, a Pirámide, and the Cohiba A. Everybody was like, and obviously you could smoke in the restaurant because at that time everybody could smoke everywhere, and the dinner was for smoking. So everybody was very excited when they started lighting the Trinidad.
Which cigar was the first you lit?
I think the Trinidad.
The Trinidad.
Yeah, I think most of the people did because you were excited to try the first what you've never tried before, and the look of the cigar. It's like velvety. You put it in your hand. It was so elegant. It looked so beautiful that you couldn't wait to put it in your mouth. And then you light it, and the draw was perfect. It was perfect. So people were very excited. So that made the people get excited about when the auction was going to start.
Okay.
Because once they tried it, everybody wanted to have it. But obviously, there were just a couple of boxes for the
How many
auction.
boxes was it? 5 boxes?
I think there were 6 boxes
6,
in
okay.
the auction. They made
In
3
each
different
lot, yeah.
packages.
Uh-huh.
They made one package was only the Trinidad, then there was only a Pyramide, and one only the A. And then they made packages.
The King's Ransom.
King's Ransom. And Marvin was the auctioneer.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
It was very good. And I tell you, they did get a lot of money at the time. So Padron was very excited because he says, I'm coming back to Cuba with a lot of money for public health. So it was a big success. So since then, everybody spoke about Trinidad, 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 Trinidad.
Yeah.
So when Linares came, I tell you, in Cancun, then came to Mexico, I mean, everybody was bombing about Trinidad, Trinidad, Trinidad. I said, why don't you make it Trinidad? You know, the world is waiting for it. So like 2 years later, then Linares was already, the president of Habanos was already.
Yeah.
And he called me and he says, Max, I have very good news for you. We have authorization to make the first 2,000 boxes of Trinidad Fundadores, and it's going to be Mexico, the first country to receive them. So
Incredible.
we were really excited, and we planned a very nice party, a dinner, an event for the launching of the Trinidad. And it was I mean, those 2,000 boxes was like fantastic. Everybody was just excited about it.
Sure, you had people coming in from around the world.
People came more for the world from the United States.
Okay.
And they were buying the cigars, and everybody liked it. You know, it's funny. Nobody had smoked. Maybe you could have a Lancero. That at the time existed, the Lancero.
Well, the Laguito #1.
Yeah, Laguito #1, which is also a 38 millimeters. But when the Lanceros came out, the Fundadores, they changed the ring size. Instead of 38, it became 40. Mm-hmm. So you say, you know, between 38 and 40 millimeters, what can be the difference?
Yeah.
I mean, cannot do much difference. But talking about that, I don't know, you remember in June when we were in London, we were speaking about Trinidad, and I was saying also, you know, 38 millimeters and 40 millimeters, people probably don't realize the difference. But I said, no, please, if you do a test, I guarantee you can see a difference. And if I may, I would like to make a test with you, a trial, to see your senses, to see whether you know or you don't realize what a difference is. If I may, let me show you.
It's amazing that you have both. So let's first look at the cigars.
So, okay. This is the Trinidad Fundadores 98, the first batch of cigars that were made. You have still the old Cuban seal. Mm-hmm. And these cigars were already 40 millimeters.
Because they launched at 40.
At 40 millimeters.
Yeah.
This is the Trinidad 40 millimeters. You can see.
I had the privilege of smoking one of these with you in London.
And then let me show you. This is a very special box that very few people probably even seen it or have not ever seen it. This is a box of Trinidad Fundadores that they used to be able to register the brand before they ship them to Mexico or to the world, because they have to have the name registered. So this is a
This is before the launch in 98.
Yeah, because no, this is 98, but before they send the cigars to the market, they had to have the registration of the name, not to go or have problems. But these, as you can see, these are 38 millimeters.
Yeah.
So these are 38, and this is a 40.
Okay.
So what I would like to do with you is, I'm going to blindfold you.
All right, this is
to blindfold you, and I'm going to take one of the cigars from the 38s.
This is a lot of scrutiny.
And I have one of the 40, and I'm going to mix it. Well, you cannot see what I'm doing, but just by touching it with your fingers, I guarantee you will know which one is which. I mean, so this is one.
All right.
And this is the other one.
And this is the 38.
Exactly. This is the 38. Yeah.
Let's see. Did I get it right? Wow.
But it's incredible.
Yeah.
If you say 2 millimeters, you cannot even
think of it.
Compare 2 millimeters.
Yeah.
But in the hand, it feels completely different.
Yeah. What about in the blend? I mean, because, you know, it was Raul Valladares who, you know, blended the commercial Trinidad Fundadores that launched in 98. And, you know, we had the opportunity to speak with him as part of the Legacy of Trinidad series. And he was speaking about how, you know, Habanos, what they desired in the Trinidad Fundadores was a slightly more approachable cigar than perhaps the Laguito #1, you know, from Cohiba. And so that 2 millimeters is what allowed them to put the Seco into the Trinidad Fundadores that didn't exist previously, or I suppose in the Laguito number ones. So when was the last time you'd smoked one of the kind of original Trinidads?
No, the original Trinidad I smoked in the party, in the 2004 party.
Okay.
And then I have one box that I've maybe smoked 5 cigars of it, because I don't have the 38. I haven't.
Literally priceless.
Yeah, you cannot find it. I have, like, for example, in '98 when they made the 2,000 boxes of 24s, they also came no, this is already 2001. This is the box of 50s, but it was already 2001. So,
may I?
Yeah, I have the one from '98 too, but this is 2001 when they made this.
I mean, everything's better in a Kappa 50.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
Wow, and it's still so fragrant.
Yeah, well, if you keep them well, they pay back to you.
Yeah.
If you keep them bad, they'll be mad at you and they will not be good to you. So,
well, let's go back to this dinner of the century. I mean, so they were auctioning the Humidors. Did you acquire anything?
No, I tried to buy some. One thing, and I remember Marvin screaming at me, "Max, your wife is gonna kill you. Your wife is gonna kill you."
For not buying something.
No, because I was trying to buy. But, I was outraged by many other people. There were a lot of people there that were really wanted to buy the cigar. So at the end, I acquired in the auction what I wanted.
Okay.
But actually, the Davidoff, the Trinidad, in box of 50 was acquired by Edward Sarakian. He got that one.
Well, he also purchased the Cohiba Ace.
And the Ace.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a guy from Canada that got like the big,
King's Ransom?
a package of 5 or 6 boxes.
The King's Ransom.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Who was that gentleman? Do you remember who he was?
It's a guy from Canada, but I can tell you that I know that one. I think he paid like 200,000. It was dollars at the time for the auction.
Lot.
And I heard that when he get home, his father almost killed him because he said, we are working so hard in our business. They were the textile businesses, shirts and pants.
Okay.
His father said, "You're crazy the way you spend the money." I mean, he had a big problem.
Yeah.
And I heard that at the end of the time, he sold the boxes back.
Did he?
Yeah.
If he only would have held on to them, 20 or 30 years.
He probably would have made more money than with the textiles.
Yeah, with the textiles. That's fascinating. Well, let's back up a little bit. And, how was it that you first got into cigars? I mean, in 1990, you opened the La Casa del Habano.
In Cancun.
In Cancun. But when was your first cigar? I mean, how was it that you first discovered these incredible instruments of pleasure, as Edward Sarakian would so eloquently say?
I used to smoke cigarettes. I mean, from time to time, these downhill cigarettes. And downhill cigarettes, yes. And I had this brother-in-law, French Moroccan, that used to smoke cigars all the time. He must smoke 6 cigars a day, at least.
Man of my heart.
And he always got his cigars from Gerard. And he always said, "Max, you have to try a cigar." I said, no. So anyway, one time we were traveling, and he said, "Please, have a cigar." Okay. The first cigar he gave me was a Partagás Lusitania double Corona in box of 50s.
Mm. It's a good place to start.
No, I don't think it was a good start.
Okay.
If it's the first time you ever smoke, and after smoking cigarettes, I lighted it, I inhaled. So it was very strong to me. So I said, you know what? This is not for me, because I didn't know how to really smoke cigars, because next day he says, "Okay, I have something else for you." And he gave me an Hoyo de Motor Epicure number 2. Mm. Also, he always smoked box of 50s. I liked the cigar, and it tasted very good. I mean, it tasted really sweet now, delicious. And I said, this can really make me happy.
Yeah.
And since then, I said, cigars is my thing. So I came back to Mexico.
When was this?
This was in like 85.
Okay.
And I tried to buy Cuban cigars in Mexico, and there were no Cuban cigars in Mexico.
You could buy
only at the duty-free, and sometimes they had, I tell you, only in Montecristo Special 1 and 2. That's all they had. And I looked everywhere, and nobody had it, because it was the boom of cigars had not even started. So people smoked a lot when they go to the bullfights in Mexico.
Okay.
That was very famous still today. Everybody was smoking, but they were smoking local cigars, nothing really Cuban. No, people were not aware of that. So then is when I decided, with my friend that became my partner, Velasco, And he used to go to Cuba all the time because he was bringing from Cuba marble for construction, for floors and all that. And he used to go, I said, please bring me a box of cigars when you go. And he came, he brought me a box of cigars. Next time he went, he said, Max, I brought you 2 boxes. I said, oh, fantastic. Next time he went, he brought 3 boxes. So I was very excited, and I made in my house, in a little room I have, I built like a little humidor, and I put with wood, and I put a little sponge with the water to try to keep them. And I was really, really happy. The next time, he brought me the catalog of Cuba tobacco that had like every production of, and I saw it, and I said, oh my God, I want one of each.
Yeah. So
then I said, please, if you can bring me a suitcase with different things, because I mean, I'm really, and at the time you could bring whatever you want, because today in Mexico, you cannot bring more than 25 cigars, only 25. So I mean, he brought me a suitcase.
Good for the distributor.
It's good, yeah, it's good for the distributor. But you have, in other way, you have contraband, you have market, you have like everything.
Separate issue, yeah.
So he brought me that, and I said, oh my God, I really went crazy. So I said, you know what, let's do a business. Why don't we open a store with Cuban cigars?
Okay.
Only Cuban cigars. I'll put the money for the investment. You arrange with the Cubans to have the contract, and we go partners. Let's do it. So he went, and it took us 3 years to convince the Cuban to make this store. And that's what I tell you. At the end, there was the one in Cancun, because they liked it because it was very close to the island.
Yeah.
So they could check everything.
Yeah. And what was the market like back then? I mean, I guess were Cuban cigars something primarily enjoyed in Europe, like in London? Because the tradition stretches back very...
I even think more than London, probably Spain.
Spain
was probably the biggest market at the time, because everybody in Spain smoked, and especially the Monte Cristo 4.
Okay.
That was the big hidden. Everybody in Spain smokes. Obviously in England also. Mm-hmm. But I think England was more of a special market, that they knew what they were smoking. They had all these fantastic clubs and stores, but I think the biggest market was definitely Spain.
Okay.
And then, as I started in the 90s, all of a sudden the boom came out. All of a sudden, everybody in the world wanted to smoke cigars, Cuban cigars.
Yeah.
So that's when it really
Cigar
started.
Aficionado launched, right, in 1992.
In 92?
And that was the first time that there was any publication that was available. I mean, this predates the internet, and that a worldwide audience, could learn about Cuban cigars, could see them being rolled in the factories. And anyone that's been to a factory or that's been to Cuba, I mean, it's that pilgrimage where one, I find, really falls in love with Cuban tobacco, with Habanos, to see how they're made, to meet the people. And that was the beginning of the boom. Yeah.
I tell a lot of customers and friends we have in the sources, the moment you light a cigar, it doesn't matter if it was cheap, not so cheap, expensive, or very expensive. It's just that before you light your cigar, you have to think, going back, that from the moment the campesino puts the little seed in the ground until you light it, there's more than 275 different processes.
Yeah.
Everything is made by hand. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, yes, it's expensive, but go back to everything that's gone through to make a cigar. You know what? I think if you have been to the factories and seen everything, you enjoy more the cigar.
Absolutely.
Because you see what an effort. It's just seeing the guy, the torcedor, making a cigar, how can it be possible?
Yeah.
But go back, and then it's when I think, you feel much happier smoking a cigar than just lighting it in without knowing where it comes from, how it comes from.
Well, the meaning and the nostalgia. I mean, one of the things that that I often say is that there's no handmade product more widely accessible and available than a Cuban cigar. I mean, you can go to London, you can buy a bespoke suit, you can buy bespoke shoes or a bespoke shirt, but not everyone can enjoy those. But a Habanos cigar, completely handmade, totalmente a mano, right, can be purchased for, today as little as $15, $20. I mean, maybe a little bit more expensive today than they once were.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyone can enjoy this. And it's such a gift of the Cuban people to the people of the world. This incredible just work of humanity. I mean, the humanity that goes into it, to me, is something that really separates Cuban tobacco. And even today, where we see so many new worlds doing great products, they're still not made totally by hand. There's no New World cigar that isn't at least rolled with the help of the Lieberman machine, right? Yet in Cuba, it's still done today the way that it's always been done.
Yeah.
Little has changed.
I think it's a must for people who smoke to go at least once to Cuba to see the real world, how it's happening. Although they have today videos where you can be seeing the process and that, but it's nothing the same as when you are there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you see the product actually cigar smoking in Cuba is incredible. I smoke much more when I'm in Cuba than when I'm anywhere else. In Cuba, it's better. I mean, I don't know why, it feels better.
Yeah, I mean, one of the moments that I think really fully put into perspective for me the difference with Cuban tobacco versus New World tobacco was, I was in the Dominican Republic. We were visiting, one of the fincas, and the people working the land were all Haitian immigrants that didn't even speak Spanish, and were earning, pennies or dollars a day to put, rice and beans on the table, but with no connection to the land, with no reverence for the tobacco, and certainly not with any tradition. And you go to Cuba, and you see, these farmers, right, very humble, but that have inherited a tradition from their father or their grandfather in farming that same plot of land. And one of the things you see at every point, every single hand that touches a Cuban cigar, there's a reverence for the tobacco, but there's a tradition, family tradition, or a cultural tradition in doing it a certain way. And I find that the aggregation of that across these 200 and some odd hands that you describe, really creates something where the sum is greater than the parts.
Yeah.
And you smoke this, and it's, I find that smoking a Cuban cigar, it's transcendental. There is something that just transports you either back to a different time or, could be described as meditative.
When you go to Valle de Viñales, first to see, you stay there at the hotels and you wake up at 4:35 in the morning and you open the balcony of your room and you see it's like a little rain coming out and you see all the earth and the plants growing. It's like a spectacle. It's like going to a theater, to watching a show. And it's there when it all starts.
Yeah.
And then the way they control everything and the people, everybody's like in it, what they are doing. They're like the guy who selects the colors of the cigars. For you, this is brown or less brown, more, but these guys can differentiate 25 different colors of browns, which we obviously can't. And the people who, del despalillado, every process you say, wow, it's incredible. It's incredible. It's a miracle that what they do is fantastic. And we always thank all the people from Cuba that are involved in the cigar business and the tobacco things, because we really enjoy each time we smoke a cigar.
Absolutely.
We have to thank them all the time
Absolutely.
for what they do for us.
I think, again, in the legacy of Trinidad, one of the things that was really produced to me was just the, kind of the poetry of a Cuban cigar, because, the Trinidads, I think, are interesting because, unlike the Cohibas, which were for Fidel's personal consumption, like those were his cigars, the Trinidads were really created almost as an emissary of the Cuban people to the world, because they were given exclusively as diplomatic gifts. And if you think about Cuba, it's a tiny little island in the Caribbean, right? It's a small, tiny island. Yet, if you look at Cuba, there's not a country or a corner of the world that doesn't know Cuba and doesn't know Cuba for its cigars. And it's all by virtue of these incredible, instruments of pleasure that they produce and that they share with the world. And
the people who put their hearts in their labor for them,
Yeah.
They work hard. Everything they do it with pleasure, with love. And I tell you, we have to thank them.
Yeah, well, I think that the Cubans and the Cuban people, really deserve to be celebrated. Yeah, it's one of the great cultures of the world. It's really unique of all of the Caribbean and really in kind of Central or South America. You travel to Havana, and of course, because of the embargo, there's a little bit of decay, but you still see this magnificence and this splendor that somehow has persisted despite the incredible hardship that Cuba and the Cuban people have encountered And I think that hardship in some ways has forced them, to preserve and to really distill, what it is that they do. And so little has changed. And I think that has allowed, these cigars, in the absence of commercial pressures that you would find, in other tobacco growing regions, to remain true and pure to its original form.
Yeah, I mean, bless Cuba, because really, they make our life really nice, enjoyable.
Yeah.
After lunch or after good breakfast or a big dinner, for me, this is a perfect dessert. I don't like desserts in principle. This is my best dessert.
I say I like to smoke my dessert.
Yeah, I smoke my dessert.
So again, you've got this incredible 30-year, 35-plus now year history in, not only collecting, but in being in the business. What are some of those pinnacle kind of cigars that have influenced you? And I'm specifically thinking of maybe the Partagás Lusitanas, because again, in one of the interviews with Cigar Aficionado, you spoke to the Partagás Lusitania as being one of your favorite cigars in a cab of 50, because, to have the privilege, the luxury to be able to smoke a double Corona in the middle of the afternoon was something incredible.
Yeah, and when they come in box of 50s, the bundles, because before, the cigars that came in box of 50s had no band. Mm-hmm. And that's the way it was for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
And I rather have the cigars round than box pressed.
Okay.
I don't know
Absolutely.
why in the hand.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you with the hand, you play with the cigar.
Yeah.
So I think it's much. I don't know why it feels better for me as to smoke a round cigar than a box press cigar. But
I've never enjoyed the box press.
But for some reason, when the cigars are in bundles of 50, they mature better, they fertilize better, they get better. I don't know why. I mean, there must be a reason. But I think everything in box of 50s is better than unfortunately, the box of 50s have become very expensive.
Well,
and they don't make that many anymore because of prices, I guess. So now they have the 25s, and then they have also the box of 10s.
Of 10.
And in many cases, they have boxes of 5s,
Yeah.
which I think is great,
Yeah.
because some people would really like to smoke a cigar, but they can't afford to buy a box of 25.
Yeah.
So you buy a box of 5s, and like that.
Yeah, I always said, especially in America, where we've got a lot of cigar shops selling New World cigars. You can go in and buy a single stick. Always believed that if you could afford to buy the box of 25, right, you had to spend more money, but in many cases, the cost per stick was less than a Padron in a cigar shop in America. But if you could afford to buy the box of 25, you were able to enjoy what I feel like you and I would agree on is a significantly better cigar. Uncomparable even to this day to anything else in the world.
And if you can, buy a box or and you have the opportunity of keeping them, letting them age, it's absolutely a cigar that's aged is better than a cigar that was new made.
Yeah.
It's much better. It's like wines. You take a wine from 85 or from 64, and the wine it's very good.
Yeah.
Same happens with cigars. I try to age my cigars as much as I want, and I try to keep them and be smoking the old ones and let the new ones stay. But that's something, if you can do it, I highly recommend it.
Absolutely. As someone that has an incredible collection of cigars, how is it that you decide what you're going to smoke, on a daily basis? Do you have kind of favorites that you go to? Or?
I'll tell you something. Sometimes it depends on what I eat. If I have a light meal, I like a light cigar. But when I eat like steaks and meat and something like heavier, I like a cigar that's strong. That you smoke it, it says, "Oh my God." This is to balance the meat I'm just eating with a red wine.
Yeah.
You want something stronger. And sometimes when you eat like maybe fish or chicken, you want something lighter.
Yeah. So what would be your choice of a first cigar of the day? What are you smoking right now?
So right now I'm smoking a Trinidad Topes.
Okay, great cigar.
Which is a great cigar. It's a short cigar. It's not but it's a good cigar for maybe 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's not strong. It's not mild, but it's not strong. It's very nice to your palate.
What about after lunch?
I tell you, I eat a lot of meat.
Okay.
I'm a very big meat eater.
We're in Mexico.
Eh?
Yeah, we're in Mexico. Great meat.
Yeah, we have great meat, and I try to smoke as much as I can Partagás Lusitania, because I have a lot of boxes that I've been keeping, and you know what? But you have to smoke them, because just to keep them, you know.
Yeah, it's difficult.
No. So whenever I have a chance, I mean, and I have the time, because in my house I smoke cigars. I have no problem to smoke in my house. In the office I can smoke cigars.
As we're enjoying right now.
As we're enjoying right now. So I like a lot the Partagás Lusitania.
Okay.
Also, again, the Epicure 2s.
Okay.
I like them very much. Sometimes I like also to smoke the Cohiba, for example, a Vejique 54. I enjoyed very much.
Yeah.
And one that's old but still good, and unfortunately I didn't acquire enough boxes, is the Cohiba 1966.
Okay.
And the Sublime, they were very good cigars. And with the time, they are getting better and better. Like all of them, they all get better.
Well, I mean, again, we smoked one of the Trinidad Fundadoras from '98, which, you know, is almost, 30 years old now.
Yeah.
And I mean, what was incredible was how fragrant and flavorful that cigar was, despite the age. In some ways, even better.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's better. I mean, we can, in some other time, smoke a Trinidad now from 22, 20, and it's the same cigar from 98. And I mean, this is good, you smoke it, it's good. But when you compare it to the 98, you know, there's a difference. There's a difference. What can I tell you? Aging helps the tobacco to get much better.
Yeah. What about the, you were talking about the Partagás Humidor, right, as being one of the things that influenced ultimately the development.
You know, that was in September 1995.
Okay.
It was the first auction made in Cuba. They had never made an auction in Cuba of cigars. It was at the Meliá Cohiba Hotel, in big room.
Yeah. Do you have the Humidor?
Yeah, I have the Humidor.
Yeah. Can we see it? We've got this beautiful Partagás 150th anniversary Humidor we'll talk about in a moment, but you know, never pass up an opportunity for a new cigar. So Max, tell us what it is we're smoking, because we each have something special that, of course, is a first for me.
Yeah, this is a very, very special Humidor. You know, first they came with a 1492 Humidor to celebrate the 500 years of discovery of America in 92.
Which you have.
That had, yes.
We'll see that tomorrow.
And we'll smoke tomorrow with that cigar. And then in 94, they made another limited edition of 502 Humidors that has this in 1994. I think it's an extraordinary cigar. I mean, I've read about it, people who have had the chance of smoking it. Even though it's a small cigar, it has a lot of power. And I'll be more than happy that you try it and you tell me your opinion on the cigar.
Amazing. And this was, again, special because it's not a particular brand.
No,
it's a Habanos.
It's Habanos. It's an Habanos, 1994.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what it is.
Amazing.
You don't know what brand it is. You don't know. It's Habanos.
Thank you.
No, you're very welcome.
And what are you smoking?
I'm smoking a Bolivar Corona. That's from 84.
84.
84.
Wow. And it was in a cabinet.
Cabinet of 50. That's
50.
why it has no ribs.
band.
Today, even the cabinets of 50 have the bands. But at the time, no box of 50 had bands. It was all clean.
This one, I think I may use the soft flame. I don't want to rush lighting this.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful cigar. Wow, thank you. And so the 1994 was in celebration of?
No, 94.
Just 94.
94. After they had the 92, the 1492, that was like a super, super special cigar because it was the 500th anniversary of the discovery of America, you know. They came with the 94.
When was it? So the 1492 was then launched in 92.
In 92.
And then 2 years later, they came out with this. Have they done any of these special Habanos since?
No more.
When in Rome, or should we say when in Mexico?
It was in Mexico
Tequila.
too, so I think it's time for tequila, you know. It's 12 o'clock at night in Japan,
Somewhere,
probably.
yes.
Somewhere. So
that's right. So talk to us about this tequila, because I know that you're also quite a collector.
No, I just really enjoy tequila. It's one of my favorite drinks. I have at least every day, one before lunch and one or two for dinner. It tastes very good. It doesn't make you fat. It has no calories. And you feel good. And next morning, you feel like you had a great evening. So I'd like to give you try it.
Yeah. Wow. That is amazing.
It's amazing.
This is sublime.
It's like no other taste. And I really don't, I never tried to find out what it came from. So what was the blend of this tobacco? Who did it? I really don't know.
I mean, it's incredible, the skill of the master blenders out of Cuba. I mean, what they're able to produce with what's effectively 3 leaves, the ligero, the volado, and the seco, is outstanding.
But the way they do it, I mean, the way they...
It's magic.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And then you have V-Shot, you know, the famous master blender from Partagás, that's blending without even smoking. That he's somehow able to create these absolutely, you know, iconic, legendary blends without even, you know, smoking the tobacco, just smelling the leaves.
Yeah. Well, salud. Welcome to Mexico.
Salud, Max.
Salud.
Gracias.
Salud. And I think tequila should be drunk like this, you know. All this about putting the lemon and the salt, I think it's very touristic. It's, I think
well, if you're drinking cheap tequila,
no,
you know,
that's even just to lower down.
But
No,
this
but
is something to
tequila
sip.
is like that. No sangrita, nothing.
It has a floral finish to it. I mean, it almost tastes as though it has lemon.
You know, but of course it doesn't have,
yeah.
no.
Wow.
And it's good, like pairing tequila with cigars, like tequila, cigars with rum, with wine, with champagne, with everything, you know. Cigars go with everything. To the past, goes with everything.
I had a friend, you know, that drank copious amounts of champagne, and she was often asked, you know, when is the right time to drink champagne? And her answer was, there's no wrong time, you know.
Well,
and like
there's
tequila,
no wrong time to have the tequila either.
Yeah.
I mean,
so talk to us about this incredible humidor. So this is the Partagás
150th anniversary. This was again in September 19 of 95 at the Meliá Coiba, and there were 5 lots to be auctioned.
What a decade, the 90s.
It was fantastic.
I mean, do you think that looking back now, you know, that the 90s was probably one of the most exciting decades of Cuban tobacco? Because you had the dinner of the century, you had the creation of Habanos, you had the cigar boom with Cigar Aficionado, and I mean, what a dynamic time of discovery and just new creations.
It was a really incredible time, incredible period. And I tell you, in this dinner, I tell you, we were only maybe 180 people at the Meliá Coiba.
Nothing like the festivals today.
No. They weren't festivals yet. They didn't exist, the festivals. But they decided to make the first auction in the Meliá Coiba with boxes signed by Fidel. So, as I was talking to some of the people that are from Cuba Tobacco, and I told them that I was in the 1994 dinner, and I missed buying a box signed by Fidel because it went for very high prices for what I could at the time. So we thought, listen, Max, if you want to buy a box now, it's your time now, because if Fidel will sign again a box or no more, you know, you never know what he's going to do. So if you can, go ahead and do it. So I started getting nervous because, I think I told you, but the auctioneer at the time was Jose Cases, who's the representative of Habanos for Andorra.
Okay.
And a very nice gentleman. But he said, you know, Max, I have never made an auction. I don't know how to auctions. I don't know about this. I said, okay, but they told you to do it, so go ahead and do it. So the good part for me was that the first lot, that's the set, I'm going to go for the first lot, because always, I've told you, the best lot is the cheaper one.
Okay.
Because people are nervous, people don't know if to put the thing up or not. So the best part is that he says, okay, we're going to auction the first box. It was a box of 25 Partagás Robustos in a beautiful humidor signed by Fidel. He said, okay, I'm going to start the auction at $100. $100.
Can you imagine?
No, but it was the first time ever in Cuba an auction. So it started at 100, 200, 700, 800. So at the end, I bought the humidor and I paid $7,000 for it. And I go up to pick up my humidor. And at the time, there were not too many photographers or reporters because it was a small dinner. People didn't know about it. So people approached me right away and said, oh, you spent $7,000 in a humidor. I said, yes, but listen, you have to understand all the proceeds from this sale, from this auction, goes to public health.
It's charity.
So it'll help to buy ambulances to hospitals, whatever. So, I mean, if you can help like that, then nothing is enough, So, okay. That was the first one. The second humidor already went for $25,000.
Same humidor?
No, different. No, nothing is, no humidor in auction is the same. They always have different things, never the same, never. It's one of a kind piece. So then $25,000. And the last lot was this. But this is not the one that was signed by Fidel, because there was number one signed by Fidel.
Okay.
And then they made 150 humidors of this.
Okay.
To sell to the distributors. I mean, I was lucky enough to get the 2 or 3 of these humidors. But the nice part of it is that it has 150 cigars, all Partagás, limited edition, 150th anniversary. And it has here first, it has 50 coronitas.
Wow.
It has 5109s. That's where I got my idea to make the Edmundo Dantes 109.
Was this?
Because this, what they call now cabeza tumbada, they don't make that many years ago with a cabeza tumbada, you see?
And so was this the first time you'd seen the cabeza?
It's the first time I've seen it, yeah. And once I bought, and I smoked because as I had to smoke one of the boxes, I mean, which was gone quite quickly. And then it has at the end 50 robustos.
Wow. Look at those.
Unbelievable. And the smell is good. I mean, it's been already, this is 95, so they've been aging quite a time. And the particularity about this humidor is that it was for the first time ever its own humidity system, which I haven't used because I have it in my humidors. But it has a system here where you put water and it has a gauge. You plug it into the AC, and supposedly it gives you the humidity of the humidor. I've never used it because I have it in my own humidor, which I know for sure it's going to work well.
And back then, this would have been quite advanced.
It was like nobody had seen about anything that has a humidificator with this system. It didn't exist, so it was one of the particularities. But the funny thing is, of this auction, in this dinner, Marvin Shanklin was there. I don't know if it was Gordon and George Brightman that used to work with him. And then this was the last lot. So Marvin really wanted to buy this piece, and he was bidding. But unfortunately, for him, I say, there was another guy called Comolli, a French guy, who represented Coprova. Coprova was the company, a French company that was part with Habanos, with the company. So Comolli said he wanted, and he wanted. So Marvin was bidding, and the other was bidding. So at the end, Marvin said, stop it, because how can you go? And this guy got this, Mr. Comolli bought this humidor. The first one, signed by Fidel. But it's a very special piece because it has 150 cigars. Each one is better than the other one. And that's why I tell you, I think it's a very, very special piece because they're all 150 for all the world. So today they became very, very collectible because the people would love it. And it's 150 cigars. It's a big humidor,
And what were the other Partagás humidors? Because they did the 150th. Right, but aren't there a few?
No, then they made the 150, then they made the 160, then the 170. I don't remember the 2000, no, because in the 2000 they made that big humidor that I told you that has 2,000 cigars. It has every brand that Cuba produced. It was a very, very humongous piece. You open it, and it got all the brands of tobacco from Cuba. And you open it, and it got like 15 of each cigar from all the production that Cuba had at the time, which was incredible. But you really needed a very, very big space for it because it was very big. And it also had then a system to give humidity to the cigars.
And not all that different from the Trinidad 55th humidor that you bought in this most recent festival. that wasn't a library of all the different brands, but was a library of all of the different vitolas that Trinidad had produced. Right?
Especially the vitolas, some of them have not been produced anymore. So it has some vitolas that are not produced yet. Because many of the humidors have vitolas that are special vitolas made only for that humidor. And they have not yet, maybe they will come with them commercially in the next years. But some of them have things that have never been produced.
Well, like the Cohiba A's, from the
Cohiba A's
94.
you don't have.
It's amazing. I mean, I still find it surprising that they haven't. That's a absolutely gigantic monster of a cigar.
They have the 35th anniversary of Cohiba. It has a box with 50 Cohiba A's. 50 Cohiba A's. But they just made the humidors for the 35th anniversary.
Yeah.
And I think they were only 250 humidors.
Yeah.
And since then, they've never produced an A. But now, I don't know if you saw already, they came out again with the Monte Cristo A.
Yes.
In box of 5s.
Oh, really?
Box of 5s with the Monte Cristo A. Which I love the Monte Cristo A. It was a great cigar.
Are they still?
But you need time to smoke
Are they still in individual coffins?
individual coffins. They don't make the box of 25s anymore.
Yeah.
No, they don't have those anymore.
Imagine that tobacco.
No, but that tobacco, I will show you the A's in the box of 25s.
Wow.
And actually, the A's that they make now, they look very, very nice in each one individual box.
Yeah.
But the thing,
It's like the Cuaba diademas.
yeah, but the thing is, people don't have the time like we used to have in the 90s, in the 1905, people smoke, you had the time to smoke. Nobody would be in a restaurant and then make you face it that you were smoking a cigar. Nobody, it was a pleasure.
Yeah.
You could smoke everywhere. Today, imagine going to a restaurant and coming out with a Monte Cristo A. You can't. You can't because you will not be able to enjoy it because everybody's going to look at you like, are you crazy or what?
Now, how is it that you compare the humidors today of the humidors of kind of the yesteryears? Because they've changed. I mean,
Yeah, no, they definitely changed. At the very beginning, the Festival 1, 2, 3, there were humidors that had 100 cigars, 150 cigars, these kind of boxes, bigger boxes. But within the time, Habano decided to make some really spectacular
magnificent.
things. Magnificent. I mean, obviously, one of a kind. Everything is one of a kind. But they went really, some of them are made by Cuban artists, and they are spectacular. And some are now done by this other Massimo from the
art. Yeah.
And they are also pieces of art. I mean, it's not that it's a humidor, it's a piece of art.
Yeah.
Because the way they're finished and everything, they're beautiful. But they become really a piece it's a piece of art. What you have, it's not a humidor you can put in your table.
No.
You need to have a place.
Piece of furniture.
It's a furniture. It's absolutely a furniture.
Yeah.
And they are exceptional because they are one of a kind.
Yeah.
So that makes it really, really very special. Especially for people that collect, some people like cars, some people like watches, some people collect wine, some people collect, whatever you're into and then you can do it, it's what you like to do. And in my case, it was cigars and humidors.
Yeah. Wow, Max. I mean, thank you so much. I mean, it's unbelievable to think all that you've lived through, and the opportunity to sit down, with someone that was, literally there for all these pinnacle moments, in what is now the modern history of Cuban cigars is really exceptional. And the fact that you have all these artifacts is part of your personal collection, the humidors, but also the accoutrement, like what we have behind us, is really an incredible just glimpse through history. And thank you for your passion.
No.
Thank you for sharing it with us. And thank you for sharing these incredible cigars.
No, it was my pleasure to see you. And I can tell you again, welcome to Mexico. And I hope it's not the first time you can come back because you don't have enough time to visit all the museums we have and the restaurants. We have fabulous restaurants in Mexico, fantastic museums, and it's a great country.
Yeah. I mean, Mexico City, has some of the best cuisine in the world. I mean, we come here, to visit family, of course, and hopefully in the future to visit you more often, but also to enjoy just the incredible food and culture of Mexico. And it's an incredible place. And for anyone that has the opportunity to travel to Mexico City, it is, an experience that everyone should take the opportunity and the occasion to do.
Yeah, I think so too.
And there's also some great La Casa del Habanos here.
Yeah. Well, we have in Mexico, there's 3 Casas del Habano, and altogether there are already 16 Casas del Habano all over Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you operating all of those?
No, we provide cigars from, because we're distributors, so everybody has the obligation of buying the tobacco from us, like we are the importers. And the Casas del Habano, it's a franchise that Habanos gives to different people, like in Guadalajara, in Cabo San Lucas.
Do you still own the one in Cancun?
No. That was the first one we opened, but no, we don't run that anymore.
Okay.
We just run the ones in Mexico City. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we must take an opportunity to go visit those then.
Okay.
The ones in Mexico City, are the first, La Casas that I ever visited and walked into. The one in Polanco is where I bought the first Conde 54, the Unidante that changed everything. And then you've also opened a new one just recently, right?
We changed our address to a new one. And we will be opening a new one in a couple of months. So once it's about to go, I will let you know exactly where it is. And I hope it does good, because it's in a very good location. And people are asking for cigars, and people like to smoke cigars, and even though it's not so easy to smoke anymore, like it used to be before. But today, the new restaurants that open, they all have a terrace, because you have a terrace, they're separated from where you eat, and so you can smoke cigars. So that's again coming back, because it was banned for like 5 years. But now it's coming back. As long as you divide it, you can smoke cigars. And people in Mexico like to smoke cigars.
Yeah.
And a lot of women smoke cigarettes, and and everybody's happy.
Amazing. Well, Max, to many other great cigars over the next few days.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And for Cuba and the cigars.
And to the Cuban people. We'll raise our glasses to the Cuban people.
Thank them for everything they do for us.
For their incredible work.
Salud.
Saludos.